Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and peace and respect to you all. It's another edition of Hard Talk, and I'm joined by my brother Mohammed, aka Kov FF. Assalamu alaikum, and brother
Wa
Abdullah. Assalamu alaikum, brothers.
Wa alaikum
alaikum
salam wa rahmatullah.
salam, rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brother.
And we have, we're back to our normal Hard Talks, and we're going to be lining up some more. But it's been um, a great season of hard talks that we've had, and we wanted to continue on. And our beloved brother here, brother Abdullah, has joined us, and it was a topic that we were sort of discussing before, and wanted to expand upon it and bring it to you. And the topic is: Are the modernist movement reshaping society? So we'll jump straight into it, brother. Just if you wanted to just let us know what your thoughts are and how you came to think about this topic and sort of delve into it.
Well, yeah, Bismillah. Um, Understanding society, understanding community, understanding the hour, the times in which we live in, it's a natural human instinct. It's a human instinct to try to understand what exactly is going wrong with the environment around him. Both in my professional life as well as my private life, my spiritual life, my religious life, it's very important for me to understand the hour, the times, the era, the century. That's very, very important for me. Um, as a person coming from the Abrahamic faith, coming from Christianity into Islam, and very much working closely with people of the Abrahamic faith, Islam, Christianity, and Judaism, all of these scriptures compels the believers to understand the times he's living in so he can prepare for these times and he will be able to understand his best response to the times he's living in. So even the Quran put a lot of emphasis on time. So it talks about a historical time, a current time, and a future time, a time of trials, times of blessings, a times of forgiveness, times for reconciliation. So time, the hour, the century, the era, and understanding those times, the fiqh of waqia, understanding the current times is very, very important for all believers from the Abrahamic faith, be you Muslim, Jew, or Christian. And that's the context really of really understanding the times we're living in. That's the context of the topic. Um, so we're talking about society. And in talking about society and the reshaping of society, or is the modernist movement reshaping society, we really would want to kind of get down into what do we mean when we say society. For the common layman, when he says society, he's normally referring to his community, his knowledge, his environment, his reality. So for the academics, society is full of different theories and definitions, loads of definitions, multiple. And there's no consensus on what society means by an academic definition of what society is. The philosophers, in terms of philosophy, they themselves question different models of society, the historical model, the current model, the future model, future projection model of society, where society going as changes are happening, laws are changing, systems are changing, focus are changing, people are changing, life is changing, community is changing. So the philosophers really, from a philosophical point of view, they question the concept of society. Is this definition stagnant or is it constantly changing? If the reality is changing, why does not the definition change? So there's no consensus of agreement on what society really means. There's a kind of a religious version of what society is. And I think the religious version can be divided into two aspects. Oh, so the religious version of society really means ummah, ummah. And in Surah Al-A'raf, the seventh surah of the Quran, the chapter 159, Allah talks about, and from the Qawm of Musa, وَمِن قَوْمِ Musa, from the Qawm of Musa, there was a ummah who was guiding people upon truth with justice. So Allah talks about the ummah. And the Muslim scholars define ummah as a group of people moving towards a common agenda, moving towards a common goal. So this also works very much in some of the traditional definition, academic traditional definition of society, because the academic tradition definition of society has a common thread. Some of the common words you'll find in the definition of society is people, community, unity, benefits, growth, working together, and all these different beautiful concepts and ideas. So that's one of the Islamic definition. The modernist slash capitalist, materialist, their model is very, very different and very, very different. So we can possibly look at three different models of society. So society is about groups of people living in the same place under laws and systems and working towards some kind of common goal and common understanding. So that's somebody the basic tenets of society. However, when the layman uses society, he's not looking at the broader structure of it. So for example, the governments and politicians, when they look at society or they talk about society, they have a very structural, systematic concept. So they create structures and systems and laws in order to shape and define society. The layman doesn't talk about society other than what is his reality. And some laymen will tell you, is society important? They will question, well, it's not important to him. What is important to him is his daily activities. Um, it's quite interesting as we talk about the political take on society. So the political take on society is very structural, whereas the layman is very functional. The functions of his reality, the functions of his day life, what affects him and what doesn't affect him. He's really functional. He's realistic about that. It's quite interesting, but Margaret Thatcher in 1987, she made a point that there is no society. She said there's no society. So whenever people have problems of homelessness, unemployment, financial issues, whatever, there's no society. You cannot throw that in society. She said what you have is you and your family, and that's it. So she make a distinction very clearly, which is very rare. Very rare you hear a politician being very open about these things. But she said there was no society. And the reason why that is important to this conversation is because you will know from that time to now, there is a political and a power intent to deconstruct the society that we know or we used to know traditionally. So the traditional models of society, the religious models of society, or those society that was built on natural laws, we're going to look at those models. We're going to look at a faith-based model society. What are those functions? And then we're going to look at the very dominant modernist, materialist concept of society and what that is based on. So we possibly can look at three models if we have the time to. So human society is where society is all about the human being. Everything that it's done about it's all about the human being. Um, and you find that being the case with two models. The historical, non-religious societies were based upon survival. They were based upon family. They were fundamentally upon land, their own land. They about expanding their family, and it's has a lot to do with power. It's a power shift. So in this, we want to look at the power dynamics, the ideological dynamics, and the financial dynamics to it. So in each model, there is ideology. Ideology there's a group of ideas that we embrace, we agree to, we live by in order to achieve our agenda. Society doesn't operate without ideology. Now, so previously, you look at the scriptures. So the scriptures doesn't make mention of the word society. It doesn't. But it make mention of a dominant worldview or the ways of the world. So you look at the Bible, talk about the ways of the world, and in James, it talks about whosoever love this world, befriend the world, or is in love with the world, the worldly affairs, they are in enmity with God. So some of the Bible take on the ways of the world or the dominant cultures of the world, not to follow that, because if you follow the world or the ways of the world, you will become in enmity with God. But then James come and say, then you should really follow the ways of God. So the ways of God is against the ways of the world. Now, whenever the ways of the world, the systems of the world, the laws of the world are shaped outside of the way of God, or sometimes laws and systems are shaped in opposition to the ways of God. This is where you find is a definition of a godless society. So when we say talk about a godless society, it's only saying that the system, the ways of that society, the foundation of the society, build a system that is in opposition to God. So some societies are very godless, and it really would have in that kind of conversation. So if you look at the traditional society, it was not a society, it was more of a community. So we had land, we had families on the land, and we had a power structure. So families were all about big families. Everything was all about big families, wives and children, aunties and uncles, and extended family. And the bigger the family, the stronger the tribe, the stronger the union, the stronger the survival. So lots of children. So now today, if we were to go and Google and we type in Google family, you might see two persons or even four, a parent and two kids. That's the image of family. In my mother come from siblings with 13, all right? And her grandmother come from multiple siblings as well. So you can imagine families before, they were big. So if two families had intermarriage, they have big families and tribes. So Allah recognizes families and tribes. Now, in Arabic language, we say ahlan. It's very, very common, ahlan. And that ahlan comes, it really means welcome you as family. So ahli is in that word, ahli, ahlan. So it goes to show you, when you welcome somebody, you treat that person as family. So family is really, really important to the traditional models of society, or we can say not society, how society, before society established, and we're talking about urban society. Before urban society established, we had models of big families and tribes. And all the work that family members do was always about their family interest, their family power, their family expansion, whether they're religious or not religious. So civility was the founding ideology of that family. Survival and civility, two important words. Survival and civility. So they have to survive. In order to survive, they build their community on civility. And civility, we means to say everyone is serving each other to create, to serve the common good. So it was never I, me, myself, me, myself, and I. It wasn't an I ideology. It was always a we. Nations before, tribes before, families was built upon we. And a woman was a great hero. She was the hero of her home. She was a hero within her tribe. The man cannot function without her, because he will go out and he will cut wood, he would build houses, he would, plant agriculture, he will secure the premises. So men had a huge task to do, but they can do that without the woman. So these communities built in such a way they all needed each other. Everyone need each other. So you have a woman, she have 7 sisters, maybe 8 brothers or 10 brothers and 10 sisters. All this is reality within tribal communities. A huge amount of sisters and brothers. And all those sisters and brothers, they remain a team. All the siblings remain a team. So a woman, children, or a parent, the kids from those children, they will grow with plenty uncles and plenty aunties. and they will grow within that community's strength. And to be outside of that community was unthinkable. So, for example, some of those communities, the capital punishment was exile. All right, exile was a capital punishment, and to be exiled is worse than death. You might as well kill yourself. It's worse than death. And to be in a group, in a team, in a family, inside of a tribe, playing your part in the principle of civility, serving others to keep this whole thing together, that was the foundation of groups, of tribes and family prior to society. So the notion of society came when multiple groups and tribes come together and they had big, they were big, huge numbers, and they have to defend a particular land space, and they move into an urbanized area, urban lifestyle. That's how they become society. So they needed more hierarchy structured um, leadership. So that's where society. But prior to the modern society concept, people used to live in tribes, big tribes, and families. So we can look at a tribe as multiple families put together, maybe 25 families, all make up one tribe, intermarriage with these tribal marriages and families. So these are some of the models that researchers have looked at, the models of traditional family. Those were traditional, and a lot of their laws were based on natural laws. So they learn things from natural laws. But we from the Abrahamic faith, we believe that life on earth started with the truth. It started with guidance and how to set up a family, a community, and tribes. All was based on guidance and legislation from God. So Adam was the first man, and he was of a godly nature. He was, in some of our sources, religious sources, they say he was a prophet of God. And God taught him everything that he needed to know to set things up on earth. So it started with the truth. So anything that is in deviation or evolution is a deviation from the original guidance. So God created these tribes and farms and farming life. So then from those structure, you have people who may not be religious or have some different religious views, and they set up communities, they set up families and tribes separate. And then you have the Islamic version or the religious version of building a society. So the religious version of building a society is God first, family second, community third, country fourth. And this is the principles that a society is based on. So in contrast now, if you look at the the modernist model of society, the modernist model of a society is number one, to build an empire, a worldly empire, huge amount of material, whether it's technology, building, state of the art, going to the moon. They have an idea of a massive empire. And that empire, building that empire, that material empire, is their main goal and it's their main purpose for existence. And people are in service and servitude towards that idea. So the modernist, capitalist, materialist, in his structure of building a society, the dream of a society is put down as the top agenda. And it's all about building planes and aircraft and technology, state of the art, and just going further and further and further and further and further. And people now become subservient to these ideas. Whereas in the Islamic um, model of building a society, you build a society, number one, all in service to God, all in service to your hereafter, with justice, with peace, with humility and servitude and civility. And all the religious model is put God first, family second, community third, and country afterward. That's the structure of it. The secular or the non religious model of society has very similar, they may not be God conscious, but a lot of the principles that is based on natural law are in line with the faith based communities. Do you have any questions before we go any further or any points you want to mention?
No, but I think that's very poignant in terms of the structures of society and how we received revelation and guidance in order to structure a society. So yeah, and alhamdulillah, I'm interested in the next part of this.
Yeah. So, but in all of the different models we look at non-religious traditional societies, but they wasn't real societies. They were communities. They were what we call ummah or tribal, or what they call tribe. And in tribe, I think in Kabila, I think they call them Kabila in some of the languages. So in Kabila, Adbat, in the Kabila, the Kabail, you have tribes. And the tribal lives is in two sections, religious and the non-religious, or not very religious, even though the non-religious ones who do not claim to be religious, their origins and their cultures and their natural law is very much in line or very similar to the religious models. And then you have the last model. Now, if we look at the difference between the three different models, power is very important. Power is very important. So a woman may work 40 years of her life, raising children, supporting her husband, supporting her siblings, her brothers, her sisters, supporting her parents, supporting her community. All that life goes into her family. And she see herself and her sacrifice in service to God. So she's serving God by building her community, serving her husband, serving her children, serving her siblings, her brothers, her sisters, and her parents. So she's in service to God, and that's her purpose. She give her life to that. Now, so that's a power there. So if everybody within that tribe devote and dedicate their time and the energy, their skills and their talent into that direction, it makes the tribe very powerful. Now, capitalists, materialists, modernists understand that's power and they want that power. So, in order to get that power, they decide to dismantle the traditional, historical, religious family life and they bring you into an urban lifestyle away from land, no land. You live in an urban lifestyle. It's not like you're living on farms where you eat from the products from your hands. You eat from that. Your cattle is there. Your agriculture is there. How you make babies, that's a tradition. We have all the medicine, how to make babies, how to deliver babies, everything is there. So they take you out of that now and bring you into an urban lifestyle. And in an urban lifestyle, from a big family, you're reduced to a small family. So you want one child, two child, three is just too much, four is pushing it, five is disaster, mental health problems. So they reduce the size of the family. They take you off the land and bring you into this urban lifestyle. And when they bring you into their structure, the power goes to them. So it has a lot to do with power shift. Now, when they bring you into urban lifestyle, from a very young age, you're going to work or you're going to school to get an education in order to work. And whether you work for the system or you work for yourself, you pay taxes towards the urban powers that be. So in many cases, you find to run a home efficiently, you need 4 or 5 persons working, or three, the bare minimum, right? If one person working an average job as an average individual, we're not talking about exceptional individuals. People are exceptionally talented. People are exceptionally great with finance. The exception, we're not talking about the exception. We're talking about the average individual. Average individual to live off of one income is extremely difficult. To survive on one income comfortably, you need at least 3 or 4 people working. So from a very young age, the young boy or girl is out there in that work field. And the system, systematically, they invite the young people to come and work. Systematically, they want the women to come out and work. And in order to come out and work, they invite you to female empowerment in order to reshape or destroy or dismantle the traditional, religious, natural law family, they invite you to equal power. So the traditional religious family had a hierarchy, And even though people criticize the hierarchy, which is good that they criticize it, if you go to court, everybody's not equal in court. I mean, I'm not equal to the judge. You're friendly Muslim, but you're not equal to the judge when you go to court. So the court have a hierarchy system. You go to parliament and have a hierarchy system. You go to the army, and every country have an army. And armies are admirable. They're well disciplined. They are the people's vanguard. They play a tremendous role in the security of all nations, but they cannot operate on equality. Everybody is equal. We all equal. If you answer me, I answer you back. No, there's a structure, there's an order, there's a discipline. So if there's a structure, discipline, and order in the army, there's a structure, discipline, and order in parliament, there's a structure, discipline, order in the courts, there's a structure, discipline, order, even in the educational system, there's a headmaster, all right? Then why not in a family structure, we cannot have a hierarchy? But the modernist, capitalist, materialist ideology is to dismantle the traditional family, destroy the hierarchy, pretend as though everybody should have equal rights. But the long-term agenda is not for equal rights. It's for women to have more rights than men, where a child can have more rights over the parents to the point where the child can put the parents in prison or put the parents in trouble or get the parents fired if that child were to make the wrong allegation against a parent. So there was a purpose for dismantling the family life, the traditional family, the religious family, the natural law family. They dismantled that and they're still dismantling it. And they've dismantled it in many other communities. But the last one that is a little bit stubborn seems to be the Muslim community. They're a little more of a harder nut to crack. So they're a little bit stubborn and still holding on to marriage and obligations and taking care of your mother and feeling guilty and community and brotherhood and love. The Muslim, they are the last straw to break. They're the last ones to break. So there has to be some special programs designed. So that's all about power. Remove the power from the people of the land, bring them into the urban lifestyle. And when they come into the urban lifestyle, they have no power. And when they come into the urban lifestyle, they lack economics. They have no economic power as well. So it's about shifting that. As I was saying before, that the women, the children, and the young boys are in the field, work field, they're in the industries. And they take the youth and they take all of the female energy, young girls, and they put them into the working industry. And that working industry, you could work for 30 years or 40 years or 50 years. And sometimes if you look, you might see someone 70 years and he's driving a brand new car. He have to wait until he's 70 years before he can drive such a car, right? And people who try to have a very expensive car at an early age, they put themselves in huge amounts of financial debt. And they go into interest and they put themselves in huge amount of financial debt. So the question, if you don't want to harm yourself, the only way you can really enjoy a very decent, very good car, really, for a lot of people is when you reach 70 years old or 65 years old. So the question is, this lifestyle of power shift, it's driven by power, economy, and ideology. And why am I saying ideology? I'm saying ideology because there are academics, written documents in books where people who believe in nihilism said that willfully we are going to destroy the nuclear family. Willfully we're going to destroy the traditional family. Willfully we have to destroy the natural law family. And it's well documented. So there's an ideology behind it, and it's about power, ideology, and economics as well. Now, if you look at the ideology of the materialist, the modernist, materialist, capitalist. So he was called a capitalist before. Now he's called a modernist because he's bringing modernization to the world, and they have made them they make their way into a lot of Muslim countries now, Saudi Arabia, in the name of modernization. We want to keep you. You have to stay updated. You have to stay relevant. If you're behind times, you'll be left behind. And every Muslim leader want to leave a legacy that he is with the times and he's with the power and he's up to date and he's giving you a better life, a modern life. So a lot of the modernist movement have moved into the Muslim countries and create a tension between the traditionalists from the modernists. That's a tension, the traditionalists from the modernists. So the modernists, what is the ideology of the modernists? Well, in the past, high economic powers used to work closely with governments and religion. They used to in the past. So it was religion and state. That was it. And you have noticed for the past 30 years, they have gone completely secular. The global world powers have gone completely secular, meaning to say they take the religiousness, the sacredness, the sanctity out of life, and they're gone all secular. So they appear to be secular. And then they make a shift now from secularism, because they used to call to secularism. In university, this is secular, don't bring religion here, don't do this, no, this is a secular, no, don't bring religion here. So they make that distinction. And they have migrated from secularism now, and they're going on to nihilism. So what is nihilism? Nihilism, like the river Nile, Nihilism, it really means nothing. Literally, it means nothing. And what that means to say, the ideology of nihilism is the ideology of the modernists, the materialist capitalists, and the global powers of the world. Majority of them subscribe to nihilism. And one of the founding fathers of nihilism is Friedrich Nietzsche. Friedrich Nietzsche is one of the founding fathers of nihilism. And nihilism means to believe in nothing. In the name of freedom. Free yourself from religion. Free yourself from morals. Free yourself from family. Free yourself from history. Free yourself from the land. It's all about freedom. So they use freedom in order to get you to buy into this narrative of being free. So freedom is a nice thing. Now, what does the Quran say about that? Allah said there's a type of people whose speech will beautify you concerning the life of this world. But when truth, justice, and admonition comes to him, you find him to be the most rebellious opponent. So they come with fancy words of female liberation, equality, equal rights for gays, equal rights for this one. Children has rights to put their parents in prison, freedom. You don't have to walk with that burden of guilt. And these are very, very powerful things. Why? I'll tell you why. If you study in psychology or psychotherapy, and a very good friend of mine is doing a master's degree in psychotherapy, and we were working together, and they were saying to me in psychotherapy, you've been trained that when people come to you to get support therapy, to unburden them. So there was a case where a Muslim woman went to get psychotherapy, and she was asked to talk about her journey and this and that. And the therapist said to her, you're taking on too much. You're carrying too much load. You need to unburden yourself. So she feel guilty with her hijab. She feel guilty if she don't get halal this. She don't feel guilty. So all this thing, unburden herself. Eventually, she unburdened herself and she took off the hijab. So I'm saying in education, whether it's psychotherapy, counseling, they use a lot of philosophers, Greek philosophers, in their textbook ideology in order to educate the public. And in these ideology, Friedrich Nietzsche is one of the Greeks' top minds of reference. And he was a nihilist. And he was Hitler's hero. Hitler took him as a hero. And Hitler became a nihilist. So Hitler adopted nihilism. He built a statue of Friedrich Nietzsche. And Hitler applies nihilism in this way. Here what Hitler thought. If he applied nihilism towards race, his race will become superior. So which means getting rid of religion, getting rid of morals, remove all traditions out your way, and put your only goal towards your dream. Your dream. So your dream is to build an empire. Your dream is to better yourself. Your dream is to achieve this, worldly, achieve this. Put all these religion and history and obligations, all this guilt, unburden yourself from that and put all your efforts and energy into your goal, your material goal. So that's nihilism. And Hitler was a nihilist. Now, the modernists today, they are nihilists. So they want to free you from religion, they bring you into the urban lifestyle, and they want you to devote yourself all of your energy towards your material goal. It's all about you and what you want and what your goals are and what will make you happy. Whereas the Muslim society is based on what will please God, what is the common interest, the common benefit for the entire group. You're always talking about us and we. So it's always about a plural, never about me, never about I. It's always about a plural. So we feel huge amount of greatness and achievement by serving the common good, the greater good, the Jama'ah. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He blessed the Jama'ah. He encouraged the Jama'ah. The Prophet was asked about which food is better. He said the food in which the plate is shared. So we have a lot of collectivism. Nihilism is all about individualism. And one of the consequences of nihilism is suicide. Even Friedrich Nietzsche said that everybody who adopts nihilism will eventually commit suicide. And because you give up family, you give up culture, you give up history, you give up God, you give up discipline, you give up order. And when you give all these things up, you focus on materialism, and then that materialism doesn't satisfy you, you end up taking your lives. Hence the reason why depression, mental health, suicide, and all the other illnesses that come as a result of mental health problems are very much a reality within urban lifestyle. Very much a great reality. That's because the roots of it is nihilism, and the religion of the global powers today is nihilism. And Indian nihilism to bring us into an urban lifestyle. They want you to live in an urban lifestyle. And from that urban lifestyle, you will become powerless, they will get more power, and their kingdom will be built on that structure. Does that make any sense?
Alhamdulillah, it
Brother
makes a
Friendly?
lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense, alhamdulillah. To be honest, I'm just listening and I'm kind of learning. And I appreciate that, Brother Abdullah. I don't know how Brother Friendly Muslim is feeling, but I'm actually learning a lot. Thank you so much, Brother Abdullah.
No, alhamdulillah, yeah, especially about nihilism and how that was something that was trying to be implemented in what because you hear the term, but really understanding the implication on society is also quite interesting to sort of delve into. Absolutely, no, alhamdulillah.
But what we can do, we can look at nihilism, look at the five founding fathers of nihilism, all their books, all their biographies. We could have an overview of them and show you where political powers have adopted nihilism. So if you're studying economics, they take a lot of the founding fathers of nihilism. If you're studying gender studies, they take the founding fathers of nihilism. So there are five prophets among them, five founding fathers. So what we can do is dedicate some time, bring their names up, bring their biography up, and show the relationship between them and what we live in today. Now, in our scriptures, we learned about Qarun. Qarun was one of those individuals from Qawm Musa. He was from the people of Musa. And some of the historians says he was one of the poorest of Bani Israel, was one of the poorest among the children of Israel. And he used to go to Musa and ask Musa to make dua that he get rich. And Musa told him that if he has patience with his situation, it's better for him. Eventually, Qarun become very, 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 very rich. And his wealth was enormous. He had a huge amount of wealth. But what was Qarun's ideology? Qarun felt with the amount of wealth he has and 250,000 of Bani Israel prominent leaders followed him. I don't need God. I don't need guidance. I don't need no person who walking in sandals and slippers and flip-flops to tell me what to do. I do not need God. Now, whenever a society goes into an ideology where woman saying, I don't need a man, I can do without you. Children saying to their parents, I mean, children can't even clean themselves properly. And they're saying to you, maybe not verbally, but with their attitude, I don't need you. I don't need you to be talking to me like that. Don't be telling me I'm big, I'm grown, I understand. So whenever a society start having concept where we do not need God from the top, that things trickle down. And they don't need God from the top. So it becomes a godless society. When you become godless, you become careless. When you become careless, you become reckless. And we start seeing so much of recklessness in crime, in antisocial behavior, in perversity, sexual perversity. And when a nation becomes godless, what happens? Tyranny grows. It's a breeding ground for tyranny. Witchcraft becomes very dominant. Crime becomes very prevalent. Sexual perversity rises openly and blatantly. And what you start seeing is plagues. These things becomes like plagues. It's like a punishment, a plague, telling you, come back to Allah. You was not there all this time. You wasn't there. You wasn't always like this. Trace your footstep back when you were very good, and you realize when you were very good and you were doing good, that's when you were with God. So Qarun, the ideology of Qarun has transmitted now to our people in our time. Our global leaders, or a lot of them, they are godless. They don't want, they wash their hands from God. You will never see them coming forward and saying or speaking in the name of God. They don't do that. They will not quote any of the scriptures. They're godless. If and if you have a godless nation like that, that progresses. So from secularism, they progress onto nihilism. So if you have a godless nation, these things progress. Witchcraft, sexual perversity, tyranny, destruction of the family, which is the most important thing in any society. If you destroy the family structure, when you destroy the family structure, Shaitan work is done. He steamroller the young kids and the women. And this is exactly what Shaitan does. Shaitan have a natural interest in women and children, and he attacks them first in order to destroy the men. So when Shaitan wants to dismantle the family, he attacks the woman. He destroys the woman. When he destroys the woman, everything else becomes easy for him. It's just a steamroller job. So what happened now, we've seen the destruction of the nuclear family, the traditional family, the religious family, the natural law family that's been destroyed. Not totally, there's still some families surviving, but I still believe the Muslim family culture has been a little more stubborn than other families because other Christian families take a bigger hit with it from alcoholism, addiction, the breaking up of the family. Now, when the family break up, you find the doors of crime open. So many people who have criminal behavior, many people have mental health problems, many people have all different types of addictions. If you go right back, broken family, broken home. So when Shaitan destroyed the family, he knows very well what he's doing. He destroyed it. Everything else is piece of cake on the Iceland frame. So the modernist nihilist is to destroy the family. And one of the ways they're doing that is urban lifestyle, so-called equal rights, giving children rights to put their parents in prison, giving children the opportunities that they can even put teachers in prison. They can cause a teacher to get suspended just by making an allegation. And some children, they can be very naughty. They can make a false allegation because they know the tripwires of a false allegation. They know the consequences of that. So they will do that. They'll do it for fun. They don't understand. But whether it's fun, serious, or otherwise, it can affect a person's career, destroy his life. If you have a house to pay, I mean, he could get suicidal. He could commit suicide. by a false allegation impacting on his career. So they give the children these rights. And all these things systematically is done, is creating a nation whose attitude, mentality, and behavior is against the will of God. And the consequences are plagues are falling us. Sexual perversity is plagues. Addiction, all sorts of addiction is plagues. The destruction of the human family is insane. So all this kind of insane thing and a huge amount of suicide. This country have a lot of suicide, huge amount, but it's not on the mainstream media. They don't talk about it a lot. And any society that is engaging in nihilism or godless behavior, godless systems, and godless laws, and the Muslim countries who give unconditional support to these nihilists is culpable of destroying themselves as well as their country. Any Muslim country or government give unconditional support in order to be on the stage of power, in order to be included in the global development and the modernist development, just to stay in the game. They are destroying themselves, they're going to destroy their regime, and they're going to destroy their people. They will be destroyed because they're following, as Allah says, do not follow the footsteps of shaitan. So I think another thing we can do for another segment is really bring some books forward, some academic books, and show the leaders of feminism who they were nihilists, how they lived, they died with depression, who committed suicide. Friedrich Nietzsche, who is one of the founding fathers, he was Christian, he apostated, and he wanted to get a woman. The woman didn't want him, and he decided to turn against God, and he hated religion. And we could even show you how Hitler created a big statue in honoring him. So that was Hitler's hero, and Hitler became a nihilist. Nobody ever answers the question of the religion of Hitler. Hitler became a nihilist against the Jews. He became a nihilist in order to advance race superiority. Now, the modernists now, in order to advance economic superiority, they adopt nihilism. So nihilism is in order to achieve the highest potential, the most supreme, the optimize, the highest achievement is to adopt nihilism and achieve huge amount of materialism. But in order to do that, you have to drop religion, give up history, forget family, forget parents, forget responsibility, forget morality. So it's freedom from all these things. When you free yourself from all these things, then you will be able to achieve the optimum results of your goals, your material goals. So that's the ballpark idea with it.
Alhamdulillah, Akhi, that's very, very powerful. Barakallah feekum. We've got some questions, if you don't mind. Maybe we can refer to some of the questions and then we can get back on topic. I don't know if you can see the screen. I'm going to put the first one up. I don't know if it's related to the topic.
You can. I can't see the screen because I'm on my phone and it's not very. Yeah. So if you can read the question out, please.
Yeah, it says, this is from Jory. Hi, I am a Catholic Christian, but I'm fascinated by Islam. What does Islam think about traditional metaphysics? In brackets, Aristotle, Thomas, etc. Is that did you understand the question?
Yes, I kind of understand the question, but they're interested in Islam.
Yeah.
Yes. So if you're a Catholic and you're interested in Islam, I can relate to that. I can relate to that because I myself was raised in a very strong Catholic background. From a very young boy, I was in a hospice, and I had a great background there. And Catholic come from they have a deep history, a very, very deep history with huge amounts of traditions. And for a Catholic now, looking at the history of Catholicism and comparing that with Islam, it's an interesting journey. That's great. So they're asking about the questions about metaphysics. And the question about metaphysics is that some of those, the leaders who purport these ideas of metaphysics, sometimes they use these concepts, these theories, to define truth and falsehood. And that's become problematic. Truth and falsehood cannot be defined by metaphysics. It cannot be, nor philosophy. Truth and falsehood, what is right, what is wrong, what is guidance, is totally in the hands of God. And God becomes the primary source of guidance. And whether it's biology, metaphysics, science, they can only use as supporting evidence. So if the science in the sense of natural law were to identify some principle that supports what God says, then that become. But the dangers in it is that if you look into these philosophy of metaphysics or science or any of the philosophies or the sciences, eventually they start making these science their point of reference and their point of guidance and the guiding principle of what is right and what is wrong, what should be done and what should not be done. And they try to say religion must be inside of that framework. Religion must adapt, change, and alter to fit inside of the science model or the metaphysical model, right? So that's the danger with them. Whereas if someone is science-minded or metaphysical, then those ideas and concepts have to fit in or fit under or support the true guidance of God through his revelation and his prophets.
Alhamdulillah. Brother Jody, I hope you listen to that. And thank you for joining us, mashallah. I think he's a new viewer to the channel of COFFF. So nice to have you here. Keep in the chat, brother, and if you've got any other questions, hopefully we can help you out and signpost you, inshallah.
Well, if he doesn't have a question, he just want to discuss the issue, and I think generally the boundaries between the Muslim ideology and science is that science tried to say that religion must conform, adapt, and fit into the science model. That's a problem because science is not stagnant. It's not static. Science don't hold one truth here and keep that truth for 100 million years. No, science keep changing. The concepts, theories, and principles in science keep changing. They keep developing. So science will say one thing one time, and the next 100 years, they keep changing. So science keep changing. So if science keep changing their views, opinions, and ideology and theories and hypotheses, then we must keep changing as they keep changing? No, science have to conform and recognize divine authority. They have to recognize God. They have to recognize prophethood. They have to recognize, guidance and the benefit of God guidance and prophets. They have to recognize that. When science conform with that, then, or metaphysics or any one of these sciences conforms with that, then that's where it needs to be. But science cannot take the lead and religion toe in the line with them. It's not going to happen.
No, brother, that's a very good point in terms of, science versus religion, and also the implementation of science. Because science can change. What they think is the best verdict of something or the best model of something, they later find out may not be. And science alone cannot be the determining factor because there are other elements of that.
And it's only observation. It's human observation. Yeah. So a person might observe something from his point of view. Okay? Yeah. And he might have some truth to that. But someone else may observe it from a different point of view and he has some truth to his. And then when you put all the cases, all the observation together, you come out with a different truth. So, but the question is, if you go through the some kind of scientific views for the past 200 or 300 years, you will see so much a difference and so many changes. Whereas if you look at the ideology of religion, you can see a consistent thread of immorality. I mean, incest is incest, adultery is adultery, pleasing God is pleasing God, sin is sin. I mean, hellfire is hellfire, paradise is paradise. And the religious ideology is very, very consistent. If you clear away all the other little cloudy stuff, the misconceptions, it's very, very consistent. Whereas science is always changing and it's men's observation on something. It's a human observation. And human beings are entitled to observe the laws of nature and come to conclusions. But the question is, that is often changing, always changing. It's not stagnant. It's fluid, consistently fluid. So I'm thinking they're going to be consistently fluid until they go right back to square one, which is Adam was a prophet. All the other prophets were upon the truth. The guidance of the prophets and the revelation on God was the truth. It's a full circle they're going to make. But we're not going to go on that journey with them. We're not going to drop our religion. You know, and this century we say A, the next century we say B, 50 years we say D, next 60 years we say, and we just jumping from pillar to post.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. There is another question. Actually, it's quite important. Let me just put it up here. We've got a question. Are there any flaws in religious societies? That's quite a general question. So, are you talking about any particular religion or just religious holistically? Covering every religious society. Living in the West, I think it's quite obvious that this is broken down completely. To some aspects in the Middle East, they still have this religious society. Yes, it's a bit weak, but they still kind of like keep some morals and some standards. But of course, in the West here, especially in the UK, it's totally broken. You don't have to go far to kind
But
of like
it's
see
not the
the effects.
flaws. It's not the flaws is the concern. It's the
Mm.
goals and the purpose is what is the concern. So the goal of any religious society is God first, family, community, and country. That's the goal, right? In other models of society, as we describe as the modernist capitalists, is their goal, their purpose is hedonism, is pleasure, freedom, power, wealth, and self. So it's not the flaws, because if you are a person who aspire for good, and on your journey to good, you will have multiple stumbling. God doesn't look at your stumbling against you, but your stumbling becomes a virtue for you because your goal, your agenda is virtuous. So the Prophet, peace be upon him, says, if a non-Arab is trying to learn the Quran and he make a mistake, he even get a reward in trying to pronounce the Quran properly, right? So every time he stumbles, he even get a reward for stumbling. Why? Because his goal. So it's not the flaws. No, it is the goal. The goal of every Islamic society, community, is God first, family second, community and country. That's the goal. The modernist, materialist, the goal is to rebuild Babylon. This is the modern day Babylon. And all the Babylonian gods are being returned right back. The serpent worshippers are present. Witchcraft is open, widespread. Occult is open. And Satan has his hands on ideology. He has his hands in economy. He has his hands in entertainment. You go into the entertainment industry, all the satanic symbols is blatant and open. You go into the economic structure of any society, you can see the economic structure is oppression, oppression, total oppression. Young girls and boys and women on the work field, and they're working hard and they end up with nothing. No deen, no morals, battered, destroyed. So the question is, Satan has his hand in the entertainment industry. He has his hands in the educational industry. He has his hands in the ideology. And the system of this new Babylonian pharaonic system is their gods are pleasure, power, wealth, self, ego. That is their God. Materialism is their God. So it doesn't matter the flaws. What matters is the goal. What is the goal? And with all your flaws, What is most important is your goal. You keep your eyes on the ball, you keep going, regardless how much you stumble. But if you stumble, but on you stumble on the path, you're looking for a seat at Satan's table. And that's what happened with a lot of people. They're looking for a seat at Satan's table. And every time they stumble and fall, then that's on them. It's the goals, not the flaws. What is the goals? And we got to keep your eyes on the goals. This Babylonian pharaonic system is rebuilding Babylon. They're paving a way for the Antichrist. And a lot of people are systematically involved in that Antichrist. And it's not hidden, it's no longer hidden. It's open, blatant in your face. The leaders are becoming godless. They're making godless laws and godless systems. The systems and laws are made are destroying family life. They're causing a child to put his parents in trouble. They've taken a child can destroy a teacher's career. They put the wife against the husband. The woman pushing men out of employment. Tension between the gender. They're destroying the family life. And when you destroy the family life, it's nothing else. That's it. It's over. Game is over. Game over. Checkmate.
Brother Friendly Muslim, subhanAllah. Brother Abdullah really made some important points, and to be honest, I'm quite taken away. It's spot on. What's your opinion, brother?
No, I think that there's some extremely valid points in that, in terms of where society goes, where it crumbles, um, where it gets attacked, and what is the crumbling of society. And again, that was a very valid point where you see it is God first, the family unit, the structure, the community, um, you know, country, and again, there is a very essence of prosperity and keeping that family unit um, growing, and contributing this everlasting cycle of continued growth and those morals and standards going from generation to generation. Uh, you know, and the foundation of that is hard work. Also, it's not even a case of not being able to work hard. And again, technology has a place to play in it. The implementation of those technologies also on how our society works, how we are now in a position where it is everything can be swapped over, everything can be changed, everything can be ordered, um, and so what we see when we have these societies that are built with families, these morals, the structures aren't shifting. There's something that are transcending from generation to generation, and so when they're broken down, that's where you see that breakdown of society also.
And it's worse in urban areas than rural areas. Rural areas where people still have connection to land and they have farms and they have a certain amount of autonomy. They eat from their own hands. That barakat, that blessings is very different to people in the urban lifestyle. So urbanization is a huge part of the reconstruction, of the reshaping of the modernist movement. So the modernist, capitalist, materialist, one of his project, he bring you into his space, and his space is that urban lifestyle. So even as an urban lifestyle, people don't know each other. There's no social interaction anymore. If you count up the amount of hours, you look at a family, right, and you count up the amount of hours a child speak to the parents per week, sometimes it could just add up to 2 hours, 3 hours. There was a research done, right? And we were looking at how much children speak to their parents. Like, for example, a wife speaking to a husband, a solid conversation, 3 hours a day. How much of that is a reality? Or a child having a solid conversation for the 24 hours a day, 3 hours or 2 hours a day. So 2 hours a day, 7 twos, two sevens are 14, 14 hours. How much of that happening? And the samples we were looking at, the samples were reflecting that if if a parent asks a child a question, it's always, yes, no, I don't know, I don't know. That's how it was. When I was a child, the children used to be running after their mother, running after their father with 500,000 questions. Your mom would say, oh my God, leave me alone, man. And just because the child used to run after the parent asking all these questions. Younger generation today, not going to the parent for questions. So that's a power shift. The parent is no longer this primary source of guidance, information, and power. So the power now is shift. So that child getting his influence and the power from outside of the home, on the internet, from the music, entertainment, the movies, and the fighting games they play on Xbox. That is where the influence is coming. That's where the new programming is coming. They're programming us. So again, the disempowerment of parenting. But the only people is a little bit stubborn and not letting go without a fight is the Muslims. The Muslims still holding on to their families and their traditions and their extended families. And as we says, when you say ahlan wa sahlan, ahlan means I welcome you as family. Sahal, easy, and easy. So you're not hard work. You welcome your family. So that's in family. When we pray, we say Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad. So we send salutation on the Prophet Muhammad and his family. So family is really, really, really important. Really, really centrally important. And young girls today, if you ask them what is it top on your priority, it should be marriage. It should be family, raising a family. I'm going to raise a family just like my mom. I'm going to raise a family a little better than my mom. My mom had it a bit hard. I understand that. I'm going to do it better. And that is her service to God. As when a woman does her job as a wife, she's not doing anybody a favor. She's not doing her kids a favor. She's not doing a man a favor. She's doing her soul a favor because she's in service to God. When a man look after his family the way he ought to look after his family, he's not doing anybody any favors. He's doing his soul a favor because that's a divine instruction he is given to look after his family. So then when two parties, man and wife, saying, they talk to you as if you're doing me a favor. We're not doing each other favors here. We have mutual duty and responsibility to each other by the laws of Allah. And if we do this job as God commands us to do, this is in ibadah to Allah. And that's the concept, that's the vision, civility, serving others, serving the family, serving the community, serving the country in service for Allah's sake, for God's sake. It's not my pleasure, but for God's pleasure. I don't live for my personal pleasure, I live for the pleasure of God. I'm not living here for my pleasure. And that's the thing about the younger generation or this urbanized generation. They all want some kind of personal pleasure. So that's what hedonism is about. Hedonism is the purpose of your life, is all about pleasure, all about power, all about freedom, all about wanting, over wanting. Where do you think depression come from? Depression come from over wanting, over grieving, and over complaining. You become depressed, over wanting. So this is why when you raise a child, your parents used to say, you shall do as you're told. Heaven's first law is obedience. So as a Christian, my mother used to say, heaven's first law is obedience. And sometimes they say the other way around. First law of heaven is obedience. Heaven's first law is obedience. You will do as you're told. Now, parents raise their children and say, what do you want? And what do you want? And what do you want? And what do you want? So you just want. So now when you grow up into the world, you want the whole world to give you what you want. But the question is, you wasn't raised, trained, or cultivated to serve your parents, serve your community, serve your masjid, serve your Lord, be in service of, be a slave, be a servant, be in service of. That's what civility is about. A mother is serving her home, serving her God by doing her duties to her home, making her home right with God. That's what it's about. But now, individualism. I want, and I want, and I. Me, myself, and I. Always about the I. And that's where shaitan wins. No one wins. Husband don't win, wife don't win, children win, nobody wins. Shaitan is the only one wins. Shaitan is the one I. فَبِمَا أَغْوَيْتَنِي فَبِمَا أَغْوَيْتَنِي. And because you have misled me, I. So he committed his sins, his arrogance, and then he blames someone else. فَبِمَا أَغْوَيْتَنِي لَأَقْعُدَنَّ صِرَاطَكَ الْمُسْتَقِيمَ. So, and this is this ideology. I. Be selfless and serve. And if you humble yourself, you will be elevated. If you elevate yourself, you'll be humbled. So this is where we are today. Was it time now? 1:20. Any other questions or any points you want to raise?
No, but I think so as we kind of wrap up, because we posted the link and people are they haven't had any more further questions. What would be the final thoughts or on how we sort of are aware, and how do we go about ensuring that these values are sort of kept in place? And when we're engaging in, so we say, fine, just the Muslims, or perhaps the Muslims are more sturdiest and we've got something firm to hold on to. What do you think we do when we're engaging with our neighbors, with society in general, while we're sort of in conflict in some ways?
Well, first of all, if our neighbors are from the Abrahamic faith, Allah says, Inna Allah hashtara min al-mu'minina anfusahum wa amwalahum. Allah has purchased from the believers themselves and their property. لِأَنَّ لَهُمْ الْجَنَّةِ, in exchange for paradise. At the end of that verse, Allah says, and this is the same covenant that is written in the Injil, the Torah, and the Quran. So, I think I lost. Are we back on?
Yeah, we're here,
Yeah.
brother. We can hear you.
Right. So I think the advice is that everyone has to understand, believers, whether you're a believer in the Abrahamic faiths, we have a covenant. And in our covenant with God, we have given him ourselves and we've given him our property in exchange for paradise. And this is the same covenant that was written in the Injil, the Torah, and the Quran. And everyone has to renew their covenant or strengthen their covenant or be loyal and faithful to their covenant with God. Your shahada, your contract, your covenant with God. And that will be my advice to people. And whosoever have sold themselves to other than God, whosoever has enslaved themselves to other than God, whosoever choose to live their life for pleasure, power, wealth, ego, and freedom, they are in enmity with God. As James, in the book of James says, and whosoever has loved this world or is in love with this world or in friendship with this world are in animosity with God. So anybody who have enslaved themselves to their pleasures and their desires and their shahawat, their carnal desires, they have violated their contract with God, and we invite them to embrace Hal adulukum ala tijaratim tunjikum min adhabin alim. Allah says, shall I invite you to a trade with God that tukminuna billahi, that you believe in God, wal yawm al-akhir, and you believe in the last day. So Allah is calling mankind to a trade with God, with him, an exchange with him, whereby you believe in God, and in exchange he give you paradise, everlasting life. And those who are believers have to renew our contract, examine our contract, and be loyal to our covenant, our contract, or shahada. And those who are violated and have betrayed and have apostated from their covenant, we invite them to come back to their covenant with God. We invite them to come back to their covenant with one God.
Alhamdulillah. The link has been posted. If anybody wants to jump on and say a few words, got some questions, feel free. We've got about 10 minutes left. So please, brothers and sisters, don't delay. Click onto the link and join on the panel. Thank you so much. To all the brothers and sisters who are new to the channel, everybody's welcome here. Share your thoughts, your ideas. Alhamdulillah. Brother Friendly Muslim, how you doing, brother? And what you been up to, Brother Friendly Muslim?
But yeah, no, just been fine. Just been fine. Just sort of taking it easy a little bit this week, but sort of planning some future uh, shows and content, inshallah. So yeah, it's just been a bit more laid back, and sort of reassessing what sort of content we're going to be putting out over the next sort of coming schedule and working on some stuff. Alhamdulillah, these sort of discussions that we're having, are a spark and ignition to have deeper conversations, to be able to look at different aspects, um, and sort of gauge over the next sort of 12 months, etc. Like, what is the content, and what are the things that are affecting our society? What are the things that are affecting the ummah? How do we adjust? What are our thoughts? And again, it's an exciting time because we get to then also reflect and ponder about how we're engaging with different communities, how we are talking to our neighbours, how we're engaging with Islam, um, how Islam is engaging in society. And again, there's a lot that's sort of out there that's just happened recently. That there's new agendas, uh, there's different thoughts on what should be written, what are the ideas behind it, um, how do we respond to it, nationalism versus individuality and individual rights, religion and morals versus other concepts that are out there. So I think it really is a case of us also pondering and reflecting and grounding ourselves, and being able to really think about it, and not so much with the media that you see, the influx of what is out there, and what we're consuming also, intellectually, spiritually, harmoniously. These are the things that we need to really ponder and reflect on. And just in our day to days, what sort of environment are we placing ourselves in? You know, uh, what is the information that we're taking in? So yeah, so I'm in a very reflective state at the moment, and I think it's good to take that time out for yourself just to reflect. What are the goals? What's important? Who are the people that are important also? And how these relationships are formed, and
Hmm.
what you want to bring to society and community also. So alhamdulillah, yeah, there's been a lot, and obviously I'm prevalent in TikTok communities also and things like that. So uh, sort of been doing some work with disability awareness. Also, that's something that I've been involved in. So kind of working behind the scenes on some projects there also. So which again is part of society, and how we interact with society, which is actually coming to think about that, uh, some of the work that I've been doing in terms of disability awareness, and how these voices aren't heard also. And then also from an Islamic point of view of how we can also engage with these communities also. Uh, that's sort of been prevalent because there's an individual struggle there, of people that have disabilities, and awareness and help and support. And I suppose that's where community is important. That's where the foundations of family are important. The network of support that we build. And what we're also seeing is a breakdown of that network due to the individualism that's being perpetrated also. So that's something to sort of, connect the dots and ponder upon also.
But also, society, the powers that be, intentionally destroyed union. So, long time ago, the Dawa was more fluid. So, a lot of things happen, and the impact of what happened and the reaction of what happened killed the Dawa. And outside of that Dawa, communities had community life. There were community centers, there were community leaders, there were workshops, there were community talks, community events. All these things now has gone away. So you don't find community leadership, community centers, community workshops, all this kind of human engagement and connection that has been stopped. So one of the things that Shaitan does, Shaitan, he disconnects what Allah commands to be connected. So human connection is divine, it's therapeutic, very therapeutic. So having human connection builds relationship, it improves understanding, it reduces misunderstanding, it builds affection. And Shaitan disconnect human beings. So yes, social distancing now. All that is in the plan, all that is in the making. It's not by accident. All right. So the less we have contact with humans, the weaker we are spiritually. The more contact we have with human beings, despite even human beings are complicated, they're problematic, they're harmful, despite all of that, human beings, we must contact with them. Allah has made you a balanced nation, and He has made you a witness over them and the messenger witness over you. Now, you cannot have a witness that you don't know. So the thing about a witness is that I know you, I have advised you, I've invited you, I've shared with you, I have loved you, and I'm a witness between me and you, the truth. Now, if you don't know that person, you don't share with that person, you haven't advised that person, you haven't invited that person, you haven't loved that person, then you're not a witness. So Allah has made us a balanced nation to the point where we're not lawless and we're not monastic. We don't go in a mountain and practice righteousness. No, we're a balanced nation. And in this balanced nation, the duty is you are a witness to them, and the messenger a witness to you. And that's the thing about witness. You look in the witness in the eye and you tell the witness, I told you, I have informed you, I have invited you, I have loved you, I have warned you. We are a witness to them. So, but we cannot do that job if we don't have connections. We don't have leadership. We don't have inspiration. We don't have an awakening because our people are sleeping. Our people is in a coma. This very same conversation we have in here. If you take this conversation to multiple people, number one, they change the topic because they can't keep up with it. That's for one reason. And secondly, it's not something they want to hear. Why? Because they're sleeping. Our people are sleeping. So we have to kind of wake our people up. We have to wake them up. But we can't wake them up if we're not connected to them. We have to be connected. We have to make it your business 1 hour a week or half an hour a week to call a brother in your phone contacts. Go down your phone contacts, go down the list. Hey, I should call this brother and ask him how you doing. Send him a text, say, hey man, how you doing? I haven't been in contact with you for a while. Man, I just lost it, man. I don't know, man. Shaitan get the better of me. But anyway, I'm here now. If you ever need me, I'm gonna come up and see you. We can have some tea together. We're gonna jam together. Call the brothers. Take half an hour out of a week, half an hour out of 1 month. Sometimes you have a phone list, 200 people. You don't talk to no one. Maybe your wife call, your kids call, mom call, that's it. Don't talk to no one. Got to go down that phone list. Make connections. Make connection. And shaitan is there to disconnect what Allah order us to be connected. So we have to be connected to the book of Allah. Our hearts have to be connected to God. Or we have to be connected to our wives spiritually and our children spiritually and our community. And we have to have that connection. Shaitan disconnects us from those things that Allah wants connection. There's a very, very important point for the community, for building communities. Community, union. Come, unite. Come and make a union community. That's what it's about, community.
Yeah, there's one thing I want to mention, and I want to get your thoughts on this, and also Brother Friendly Muslims' thoughts on this. I think these days, the man is too scared to take control of a relationship. For example, if the wife wants to purchase something, and the man, of course, is his duty to oblige and pay for it and so forth. But it's like the men are kind of like meant to feel guilty just to say no, or not at this moment because financially I'm not secure. Give it a week or 2 weeks, we'll get back to it, and then we can purchase this particular item. I think men these days are made to look or seem to be made or feel weak, and they've got no authority. I think that's been taken away from this right now. I've got two cats fighting in the garden. I do apologize for that.
those, those are spies. Those are the spies that you're going to get in trouble. That's what happens all the time, brother. Stop.
I think they've just got something and they're fighting over it. But yeah, the point I'm trying to make is that I do feel the men now are weak. They are always contemplating, if I say no to this, what will be the reaction? Will I be made to look weak or something on those kind of lines? What's your take on that, brothers?
I think it's a good point, but one of the things we have to realize is that in early 1910, coming out of America and some parts of Europe, there was an academic global program to feminize men. It's called a feminization of men. If anybody does gender studies, they'll come upon huge academic journals that talk about the feminization of men. So from the feminization of men, men have been perceived to be weak. How? It's because what was a traditional man in terms of his power, his leadership, his authority, his strength, that has changed. So you look at a traditional man, he's coming back from the village. He's coming back with a team, he and a group of people. You cannot go hunting one man. No one man goes hunting. You can't go building a house with one man. So when he's coming back to his tribe, he's coming back 60 men, some on horses, some make themselves look big by their outfit. So when his kids are in that community and see him come on with a group of men, all big hunters, builders, agriculture, he's seen as a strength. Visually, he's seen as a strength. When he come home, his voice is not like, no, he speaks like a man. Where's my food? Speaks like a man. Call his wife in a man's voice. Now, the children see he as power and authority. When the door is knocked, he opens the door like a man. Who's that? You can't be like that now. No, you go to that door, you have to apologize first and lower your tone down. Even in the music industry, way back in the day in music, men had a bass voice and that was attractive. Out of that feminization of men, in the music industry, men start having female voices. In the fashion industry make a attractive, sexy man look like a woman. So all these things has been working in the background when we are sleeping. So they've been feminizing men to reduce his authority as a man. So if you call your wife as a man, she could go to her mother and complain. And you call your child as a man, call his child, they complain. Hey, that could even go to the police. That's verbal abuse. You could be done for that. So traditionally, a man was a man, and he was respected as a man, and he was loved as a man, and nobody will complain about his manhood, but he will be adored as a man. Now, in the feminization of men, our voice change, our perception change, and sometimes no 4, 5, 6, 10 men knock our door. Like 10 brothers knock on your door. Abdullah, oh yeah, come on, we're going. That don't happen. Nobody knocks on your door. So how does your children see you? Weak. How do they see you? Tired, old, lazy, miserable, grumpy. They don't see you as authority. They look up to you. Because people love authority. They love power. They want to be connected to power. They want to taste that juice, the juice of power. They want that. But now that has been compromised. So really, if you have a bass voice, you have to go and try to get a feminine voice. Now, if you have a soft voice, you have a soft voice. That's not the point. No. But even people with soft voice used to try to be, you know. So the communities I grew up in, they will poke you. When they poke you, you're supposed to like raise up, and they just want to raise men. And this has been documented, the feminization of men. And that's the roots of it. Even in the water and in the food, they put chemicals there. Estrogen, in the air now, all over the air, there's more estrogen than anything else. And estrogen have an impact on men's testosterone. It sedates your testosterone. So we've been sedated chemically in the water, in the food, in the air. We've been sedated. Our testosterone being sedated. And that's why men weak and they feminize. And in the fashion industry, Satan have a hand in the fashion industry. The images and the role models of a nice man, a good-looking man, or all the women want that man, we kind of image that man because that's what women like. And it's a feminized, tight clothing, feminization of men. And the problem with that is that you don't hear these topics being discussed on the member. Manhood on the member. Musa alayhi salam was a man. Over 68% of Al Quran is about Bani Israel. Musa was a man, a real man. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was a man, a real man, and he demonstrated his manhood. And today's modern world, they don't want you to be a man, they're feminizing you. And that's why they make you dress like a woman, and talk like a woman, and walk like a woman, and quack like a woman. So this is the feminization of men. And these important topics should be on members to raise the awareness, but our people still sleeping. But that's a very interesting point, and I think we should have a dedicated podcast towards understanding the feminization of men, how it has, brought about, and how, this power shift.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea. The authority of a man, and not losing that bass in your voice also, because it is. I mean, you can. I mean, there is a point to it that, the way you speak and the way that, yes, we are to speak softly and with kindness, um, but to also be a leader also. So I think that's the other part of the equation. But yeah, no, I can see your tracking on how we've societal de devolvement in some ways, um, and feminization of men.
Yeah,
Uh,
there's academic journals talking about the feminization of men through the fashion industry, the music industry, the videos, the models, the food, the chemicals, and the estrogen in the air. All academic journals talk intensely about that. I mean, there's not a lot because the thing about some journals, they get funding. A lot of getting they get funded, and if it's along this line, it really wouldn't get a lot of attention. But it's there. Anybody doing gender studies, even if I mean, I can post some stuff up or send some stuff up in the group on the feminization of men. It's there.
Yeah, inshallah. I think that'd be a really interesting topic
Yeah,
for us to delve into,
It's
inshallah.
not by accident, you know. A lot of these things is not by accident or
yeah,
coincidental. Or,
yeah,
no. It's well
yeah.
programmed. More so in urban societies. So the urbanization of of family life, all that is impacted. And when you go on onto an urban lifestyle, you're on Shaitan Premat. You're on his platform. You're renting from him. Urban lifestyle. That's where
Yeah,
he gets you.
I want to say a very controversial thing before, inshallah, we end the show. I do find that I think women these days they encourage their men to stay at home more, don't work out, put on that extra weight. Now, while if you look on the other side, where the female when she goes out, she's dressed nice, Muslim or non-Muslim, uh, and she's normally, the woman is quite conscious about her shape and so forth. But the men are kind of not encouraged to go to the gym, keep fit, look after themselves, have that some type of authority. Even that aspect I see happening in our community, especially the Muslim community. The men are overweight. Majority of them are overweight. They are struggling, and it's like they've been stripped away from their authority, meaning even physical authority. I'm not saying being abusive. No, I'm not. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that their attributes of being manly, that's being stripped away. Also, what's your take on that, brother Abdullah?
Yes, that's right. But there are elements that is constantly sedating the man. So, what is inspirational? What is motivating? What is encouraging? So, leadership inspires, motivate, and encourage. So, the question: does he have that type of leadership? Um, the amount of women around him can influence him either way, left, right, or center. So sometimes it's among that. Chemicals that we consume have an impact on our bodies. Some people have more resistance, other people have less. So you might consume the same amount of food with the same amount of chemicals, and the impact it have on your body, you have more resistance to being sedated. Another person would just feel sedated. A lot of people with color, 9 months of winter doesn't help them. You know, you don't wake up in the blistering cold winter and say, "Yeah, I'm going out and work out in the gym." Mm-mm, not really. No. So weather conditions, the air, the estrogen in the air, the food, we surround ourselves with the women, we surround ourselves, the lack of male engagement. So we get energy from each other. So if brothers always, going out together, spending time together, going on a camp together, going and do this together, going and do that together, they do things, bounce off energy from each other. Spiritual energy, emotional energy, energy is contagious. So there's a lot of factors that contribute to men being sedated, becoming overweight. There's a lot of factors that contribute to it.
Oh, brother, that's been great, alhamdulillah. I mean, we've a whole nother topic to explore, inshallah, on the next episode that we get to bring over. But yeah, definitely so much. We can bring some academic work to that also,
Yeah.
and review that. I would really enjoy that, inshallah. But yeah, brother, any final thoughts from you, brother Mohammed?
No, alhamdulillah, it's been great. Thank you, brother, friend and Muslim, for helping me out here. I really appreciate your support. And of course, our beautiful brother Abdullah. I recently seen him on various clips at Speaker's Corner. MashaAllah, very, very interesting. Have you got your own YouTube channel yet, brother Abdullah, or any,
No,
any?
no, I'm not. I'm not there. I'm not on YouTube.
Alhamdulillah,
I'm not. That's not my thing, really. You know.
alhamdulillah,
Yeah.
alhamdulillah. It's
So
great.
yeah, alhamdulillah. So we ask Allah for the rewards, and you know, because it's all about serving Him and everything that we
Absolutely.
do to please Him.
Mm.
So we ask Allah for the rewards. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. I just want to make a supplication for all those brothers and sisters who are suffering hay fever or some type of allergies. May Allah make it easy for you, brothers and sisters, because
Ameen.
this time of year right now, there's so many brothers and sisters I'm coming across who've got allergies, eyes are watering, runny nose, sneezing, itching. May Allah make it easy for all of you, brothers and sisters. Ameen. And any final words, inshallah, and before we wrap the show up, I know you threw it at me, brother, friendly Muslim, but any final words to you from you,
No,
Abdullah?
no, alhamdulillah, I think it's been very beneficial. I think it's given us something to really ponder on and think about. I know the comments are positive, where we've been able to sort of challenge that thought pattern also, and to ponder and reflect. Alhamdulillah, it's great. And from that, we've got another exciting sort of topic that we can really get our teeth into. And again, when we've got academic papers that we can review and look at different aspects, also, I think that's fantastic. So, inshallah, for everyone out there, just um, keep it tuned for your notifications, etc. But yeah, no, I think it's been great. So, I mean, brother, when you're ready to lead us out, inshallah.
Yeah, yeah. Alhamdulillah.
سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك والعصر
Alhamdulillah.
إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر